what are they going to say about the Hoosiers tomorrow? That we know it's going to be seventh place in the Big Ten East in their farewell. What's the over and under is what, 3.5 victories? What are you guys feeling? Over or under? Those faces look like under to me.
Boy, but I think you hit me the 3-5, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh wow, what's way on this seesaw? Do I want to step?"
Well, the Indiana State is one win, and then Akron, that's another one, and then to get to 4, they'd have to beat what? Maybe
you have to beat Rutgers. You've got to, and then in terms of your winnable games,
Louisville
schedule. I don't know if you call Louisville Louisville will definitely be favored. I wouldn't say that should be one of their most winnable ones. You can potentially get Maryland, get Purdue.
Michigan State, since you beat them on the road last
year. Michigan State at home, and you can maybe even, I don't know how good Illinois is going to be in year 2 under Brett Bielema, but that could be a winnable game.
Yeah, Illinois is talking a lot of smack this year. They think they're going to be pretty good. They got a really good defense, I think. But we'll see. And that game's at Illinois, and Indiana was lucky to win that game last year, so they'll have a hard time.
I'm taking the over, though, and I'm not a betting man, so don't take my word for it.
Yeah.
I'm just curious who you see them beating.
Me?
I think they'll get Rutgers. I think they'll get Michigan State, and then the Indiana State Akron. I think that's at least 4 that they'll get. You're shaking your head like that's out of the realm of possibility.
I think it's in the realm of possibility. I also think that
I do think it's out of the realm of possibility because I've seen this movie before, boys.
I think the ceiling is probably in that 5 category, though. I feel like you could probably get Purdue.
That's going to be a shocker.
To get 5.
Still not good enough.
You can't even make any definitive judgments right now because you legitimately don't know who the quarterback's going to be. You don't know how good either Brendan Sorsby or Taven Jackson's going to be. And then you have a lot of returning guys that may get, like Jalen Lucas. Is he going to end up being somebody who is some sort of difference maker? We can assume things. That's what this time of year is for. But I don't think it's right to just say that 4 wins or 5 wins is out of the question.
I don't think it's out of the question. I would say 2 things. One is 5 even enough? Don't you have to win 6? Because even if you win 5, it's still 3 straight losing years and not going to a bowl game. The only way you're going to change the narrative about the program is if you get to 6 and you go to a bowl, right?
Yep, you're right. I agree with you there.
And second is it's risky to predict that many because even though they won 4 games last year, they were very fortunate to beat Illinois. They were behind the whole game against Idaho. And there was one other one. They didn't really blow anybody out. It was like they could have easily been like 2-10 last year.
Yeah, Western Kentucky's the other game you're thinking of where they had
they were behind the whole game.
Yeah.
Well, I think, to me, the way I've viewed this is because Indiana's not in a position where they're going to go out, especially now with NIL and their backs up against the wall in terms of that. They're not going to be in a position where they're going to go out and try to hire a head coach just to hire a head coach. So I think 5 wins is enough, but I think the caveat to that is you've got to look a lot better against a lot of the teams you play. You can't get beat by 60 points by Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. You've got to at least be competitive in those games. If you show that sort of improvement, you get to 5 wins, I think Tom Allen is then around next season. It's hard for me to put full eligibility because in today's climate, I don't know that Indiana's going to make that home run hire. I don't know that you fire a guy just to fire a guy.
I'm not saying
I'm not even talking about that either.
But I don't think they could get 5 wins would be a stretch to me. I would be shocked if they got to that, much less anything beyond that. But again, keep saying football is the engine that drives the train in college sports, and Indiana can only do this for so long, even though they're a good basketball program. They're not Indiana old right now, so they don't even have that to lean on. And as the climate of big-time football continues to change and morph at a higher level, man, you can't be treading water and hope to survive, I don't think.
No, you can't be down there at the very bottom of the Big Ten. You have to at least be somewhere in the middle. There's no reason you shouldn't be as good as an Iowa, a Wisconsin, or a Minnesota, or Maryland. I mean, you should be able to beat those teams half the time when you play them. You shouldn't be getting run off the field by those teams. I mean, I don't remember the score. Didn't Maryland just run them off the field last year? I mean, that shouldn't happen.
No, and Indiana just doesn't do like I whether it's Kentucky, coming up with the big wins over Florida after all those years. Indiana finally vanquished the Michigan deal and the Penn State deal. Couldn't quite get rid of Ohio State. Came damn close in 2020, but they just don't seem close enough to me in enough games. There's like they don't have a shot in this game. It's like, damn. They just don't seem competitive enough often enough to me.
Yeah, I mean, you can't keep getting fans excited if they feel like they're not going to get anything in return for their emotional investment. And they were real invested 2 years ago, and then that was just a horrible season, starting with that loss to Iowa. And then, I mean, last year they lose by 3 touchdowns to Cincinnati. That shouldn't happen. Cincinnati doesn't have more resources than Indiana. They lose to Nebraska by 2 touchdowns. They only lost to Maryland by 5. They lost to Rutgers by 7. They lost to Penn State by 31. Ohio State by 42. They beat, you can't post 3 straight losing seasons when they're 2-10, 4-8. You got to get people. You got to give people reason to be optimistic and have some hope.
Here's the funny thing is, and this is ironically funny. In 2020, they should have gone 7-0 in the Big Ten East.
Yeah, they should have.
They should have beaten Ohio State at Ohio State. They fumbled the ball twice inside the 15, and they throw a pick 6 and lose by 1 score after being down 28-7. They should have won that game. They gave that one away. And if they do that, my God, this is a team that's going to the Big Ten championship. But how things have changed since then. But there's been a lot of other changes, coaching changes, and unfortunately not coaching changes when they're needed to have been. So
right, yeah. Tom Allen was slow on the trigger to change the offensive line coach, and that hurt him. And maybe that's one area they're really going to be improved this year, because they improved last year after they brought Rod Carey in to take over the offensive line, and now this Bob Bolstead, I believe it is, they brought him from Wisconsin. His credentials are very good, and they've got 3 or 4 starters back on the offensive line. Until that gets fixed, they're not going to get better, because it was the worst of all worlds. It was couldn't run the ball and couldn't protect the passer, and your quarterback's getting beat up, and the whole team get discouraged, and the defense is on the field all the time because you're going 3 and out. And until that gets fixed, they're not going to make a quantifiable step forward. So we'll see how that goes. Right off the bat against Ohio State.
Is it fair to say that, and I don't know if deserve is the right word, but with next year being the last year of divisions and the last year of Indiana having to play Michigan State, Ohio State, and Penn State year after year, is it safe to say that Tom Allen could say, man, give me a year of not having to play through that gauntlet?
Yeah, I mean, depending on how this year goes. I mean, if it's 2-10, I don't think you can. If it's a competitive 5-7 or 4-8, maybe. I don't know. And also, it's going to depend. The one thing that you always have to look at are the crowds. Are people still invested in the program and coming to the games? If you're getting crowds in the high 20,000s, then I don't know if you can. So we'll see how much people are invested in this program. They've got Ohio State at home, and then Indiana State at home, and then Louisville in a neutral site, and then Akron. So they don't really go on the road, I don't believe, for the first 4 weeks, right?
That's correct.
So we'll see right off the bat. Huh? Our fans buying in. Are they buying tickets? I'll be interested to see when they play Louisville at Lucas Oil, who has a bigger crowd.
I can tell you.
To be
Louisville?
Yeah.
But because when they played Ball State there a couple years ago, it was terrible. It was a waste of time, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I remember that.
obviously Ball State's not bringing anyone, and Louisville will, because first of all, it's a cool environment. You're going to get to go to an NFL stadium. It's not far away. It's only 2.5 hours up, 2 hours up the road. You're going to go see a game that your team is favored to win. And yeah, it might be 50-50. It might be like the old
I think
Indiana,
Louisville will have more fans. I think it'll be at least 60-40 Louisville fans.
And honestly, you may have
that would be
Purdue
embarrassing.
contingent. You may have a Purdue contingent in attendance just because of the relationship with Jeff Brom and Purdue. I mean, you won't get a lot, but you may get some just to show up.
They don't care about that. They don't care about that anymore.
I think it's an important game for another reason, is that Jeff Brom and Mark Hagan are going to recruit the heck out of Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And they're going to come up there and try and, make a statement to kids in that area. They've already got, I think, 1 or 2 in the 24 signing class from the Indianapolis area.
Well, and they would be successful at it if they start having success. And Jeff Brom made a wise move, because he has a hell of a lot better shot at getting to a football championship or in the playoffs or even further along out of the ACC than he does at Purdue.
I agree. He made his debut yesterday at the ACC Media Day. I'll be interested to see where Louisville's picked to finish in the ACC. They junked the divisions this year, so there's no more. They've got a good schedule, Louisville. They don't have to play Florida State or Clemson or North Carolina, the 3 best teams in the ACC.
And you remember, I know John says we got to take a break here real quick, but just a few years ago, 2017, Jeff Brom made his debut in this building he took a really bad Purdue team against a Louisville team that was in the College Football Playoff contention, Lamar Jackson, a Heisman Trophy winner, and he almost beat him here. So I think there's going to be a lot of hype and excitement, not just for the Louisville-Indiana game at Lucas Oil Stadium, but just throughout the season, because of how quickly he was able to turn a really bad Purdue team into not a contender in the West, but at least a bowl eligible team.